Hey guys, this is Chad here, and I'm going to show you about the movable objects and some animations. Alright, so here we got the movable objects, and from here, sorry you guys might hear some Sims in the background from my wife. So we have the movable object script here. Put that onto any object, and it will become a movable object and can be manipulated by the player. Alright, so you have the max scale, the minimum scale, and everything else here. Right, so this is based on individual axes. Sorry. So you can fully customize the size of the object. Make sure when you do this that the minimum scale is not, or the max scale is not 0, because if it's 0, it's just gonna disappear. So like right there is 0.1. You'll see in a second. The bonus force factor, I kind of showed this in the last video, but it's just the object has a weight, so this has a mass of 2, so like 2 kilograms. Just a guess. And if the bonus force factor 1 is pretty good for lighter objects. If the object's too light, if it's like paper, like a piece of paper, and you have this massive bonus force, it's just gonna like completely freak out. If I set the mass to 1,000 and it's just so heavy that this force of 1 is not moving it at all, or it takes 20 minutes to move there, then you might want to increase the force factor that it moves better. The weight factor is not really that's just like a variable for when you scale it larger, it gets heavier. It's just a bonus to that or whatever. And these other variables here they're not really anything for you to worry about. Now it needs a particle system. This script actually requires that a particle system's attached, so you can just right click, copy a component, and then you could paste it into whatever object you want. Or you can make a custom particle effect on that object. It will also require rigid body and colliders and all this stuff, but it will automatically add all of that stuff. And from here, I'm going to go to, or I guess I can demonstrate that real fast, with the max scale being too low. So I grab this object here. Let's just put it out a little bit, and I'm going to scale it. As you see right there, it just instantly went flat because the max scale on that axis is 0.1. And let's see. Let's just scale it bigger, and my scroll factor on my player controller is too small, but there you go, there's your 10 unit object there. Now, here's the next thing. I can show you this door, or I can show you this other door. I basically have a trigger zone on both of these. There's that one there. As soon as a movable object is put in there, it will fit the movable object to that size of that trigger. Same with this one here, which isn't that visible. I'll just take this trigger. Oops, wrong trigger. And I will turn on the mesh renderer, and I will attach or change the material to the trigger material, the alpha shader. Okay. So this trigger has the door trigger. I might just change this to activate our animation trigger. In the next few minutes here, I'll change that. So what you want to do is it references a game object. So you want to drag this game, or this, actually have it as a bar door here, with all these individual bars as, or cubes as bars. And you just drag that game object onto that field right here. And then as soon as a movable object enters into this zone there, it will make the movable object fit this trigger. And it will activate the animation of this game object, and it will play. So I created this, So it's going to basically activate this script here. This door animate script. You'll need that on the object that you want to animate. And here it's going to open. And if you need it function or close functionality, I can also do that for you guys. Just let me know. So to make the animation, I'll use this ball as a example here. You want to go to the animation window. So just window and animation. I have it here. Make sure it's not the animator. So I take this object and just click there. It will ask to create a new animation. So I'll just create a new animation. I'll save it over this old one. And basically, you go here and you just have the object. This is for the very first frame. It's going to be at this position. And then as many frames as you want, you can give an exact amount of frames. So at 96 frames, I want it to be at this position here. The sample rate is how fast it's going to do this animation. So how many frames per second, obviously. If you want to make it 10 frames a second, it's going to take 9 seconds to get there, or 9.6 seconds. And then as soon as you're done, you just have the animation saved, and then on this, when it references the door to open, which will be an actual game object, I'll just drag this, Okay. I'll drag this sphere into that one, and then as soon as the game object enters this animation will begin. Now, if I have my animation here, go into that, and you want to make sure that it doesn't loop. So it just plays the one time. If you do want to loop it, you can, and you can also do your offset of how long it will have between loops. You can bake into the pose. You can do all those extra things that you would want to do, and there's your preview here. All right. And the next thing that I will show you real quick is actually the trigger zones. Now, whenever you create a room that has movable objects, this trigger zone will search for all the movable objects within it. So here I have this giant Rubik's Cube of movable objects. And I want to make, like, I have these 3 objects here also for these pole holes. And if you, let's say this trigger zone, as soon as the objects leave the trigger zone, they reset back to their original position. So if I had my trigger zone like this, and I wasn't paying attention, and I tried to put this cube into that trigger zone, then it's gonna reset. It would never get to that spot because it can't. So whenever whenever the player enters this trigger zone, let's see 1 second. Okay. So whenever the player enters this room or enters the trigger, all these objects will turn red. That's why all these objects are red. We can make it activate specific shaders or effects that the player will know which objects are manipulatable. And so the script is just for the zone is just called Moveable Zone. You want to take your collider and make it a trigger. And that's pretty much it for that. Now, when creating a new scene, you want to make sure you get this game manager and put that into the scene. Then you want to make sure you get the player prefab also in there into the scene, and then it should all work from there. Alright, see you guys later and have fun.